This was from last week, Pastor Steve. It's from Lori, and she said that we didn't get time to get to it. Sorry, Lori, but here you go. Matthew 24:36. Jesus said, "No one knows the day and hour of the end times but the Father in heaven." And she says she's paraphrasing that, but Jesus is God, so shouldn't he know?
Yeah, that is a really good question, and there's some stuff that goes along with that has to do with cultural issues, but short answer is that when Jesus came to the earth, he limited himself, and so he really did become a man. And so although he's still God by nature, he limits himself to the body of a man. The Bible talks about the fact that Jesus learned things.
Right.
And so God doesn't learn. God knows everything. And so again, it's a picture of the fact that when Jesus comes into human form, he's not sitting there inside a baby's body with all the knowledge of God at that point. He's really doing the human thing. And so the Bible talks about the fact that he grew in wisdom and knowledge. And Jesus specifically in John chapter 5 talks about the fact that when he was doing the works that God was giving him to do, that the Father was showing him those works as he went along. In the passage, he specifically says, "And the Father will show me greater works than these, that you may marvel." And so obviously it's in the future tense, and these things are going to be happening. And so Jesus really was doing the human thing. And so obviously now he's back with the Father, and he's got all of his glory. He talked about the fact that he wanted to return to the glory that he had from the beginning of the earth in John chapter 17. And so he's returned to that glory. And so now obviously Jesus is all-knowing once again in the sense of there's not anything that he doesn't know. So that's probably a statement of his humanity at that point. The other thing that you have with this is there's a situation in the passage that's pretty cool because Jesus talks about not knowing the day or the hour, and immediately after he gives that teaching, and I believe that that's about the rapture of the church, he talks about the parable of the 10 virgins. And it's a parable of a Jewish wedding feast, basically. And so these were the rules in a Jewish wedding feast. You went and you got your bride about a year before you got married. There was a whole ceremony that you went through with the bride's father. You purchased her, and there was a contract that was made. Then you went back to your father's house, and when you got to your father's house, you would build a room addition on the father's house, and that's where you were going to have your honeymoon. And the father, your father, would be the one who would approve of that. After the room addition was done and everything was prepared for the wedding feast, then the father would come to the son and say, "Okay, son, now it's time for you to go." And so literally in a Jewish wedding feast, the son did not know the day that he was going to get married, and until the father said so. And then he would go and get his bride and bring her back. Well, it's a direct correlation that Jesus makes between him being our bridegroom. We as Christians are called the bride of Christ. So there's a direct correlation between those two. And in the minds of the apostles who are sitting there listening to this, they hear him say, nobody knows the day or the hour, only the Father in heaven. Even the angels don't, even the Son of Man doesn't know. And he speaks about that for a minute, talks about the parable of the 2 servants, and then he goes straight into this parable of this marriage feast, the parable of the 10 virgins, and he speaks about that. And a Jew at the time would be going, "Oh, okay, that's what he's talking about."
Right.
And so it was always supposed to be an unexpected event where the bride came, or the bridegroom came to get his bride. So those two things. I actually believe that Jesus at that point did not know the day or the hour, because he was in human form. And in Philippians 2, it talks about the fact that he limited himself and came in the form of a man. And so there you go. Probably a little more than you wanted, but there you go.
Okay. Thanks, Lori, for posting that. Hopefully that answers your question.